Hey, welcome to the webinar. My name's John Mayfield. My apologies for the delay. Technology, sometimes you have good intentions and then things go wrong. So I'm very sorry about that and I apologize, but we are ready to get rolling here. So I'll let folks log in. And again, thanks for joining. Hopefully you can hear me okay and see me all right. I'm going to just do a little bit of a change on my lighting, and hopefully that's a little bit better there. So, well, thanks again for joining. I'm so passionate and excited about podcasting, and I hope after the presentation today that you will have that same kind of excitement and passion that I have. I really believe, even though there are a lot of podcasts out there, I really believe this is kind of still on the ground floor. So I'm going to fire up my PowerPoint, and I normally have some little controls here that I use, and all of a sudden it was not working. So I have no idea what happened, but I'm going to hopefully you can see my screen now, and I have the PowerPoint up. So let me just get a couple of items out of the way. So I really hate that because I'm always, I'm so excited when I can use my technology and it works. But unfortunately today it's not working correctly, but oh well, we'll be fine. I'm going to turn my camera off just so you can concentrate on the PowerPoint slide. And I am going to bring my chat window open up. So if you have any questions, you can type those in and we'll take a look at those as we go through. So hopefully you're hearing me okay. You can see my screen, and we will get started. Now, I get it. Some of you have, and I need to make one quick fix here. Just a second. Always fun when you're doing a webinar, and I had, and I'm not going to bore you with all the details, except just to say I had originally, there we go, originally had everything set up to run through another system, and then I was having a problem. So the last minute I tried to move everything around. So we'll see if this works here. All right. I think we're ready to go now. So many of you have heard me talk about when I do a keynote presentation, and I know a lot of you on the call have seen me speak, and you know it was April 7th, 2007, when I wanted to quit. And you've heard the Blueberry Story Farm. Many of you have, but for those who haven't, I got my real estate license in 1978 at the age of 18 and took over my mom's company, had 3 offices, a number of agents, and had run an online real estate, or I did have an online real estate school back in 1998 and 1999, believe it or not. Real Estate Express and my school, Southeast Missouri Real Estate School, were the only 2 who had online schools. And my dad passed away in 2001, and I had so much going on, and was taking care of my mother and some of her properties and so forth. And so I'd kind of gotten burned out on real estate. And my wife and I bought this Pick Your Own Blueberry Blackberry farm. And we sold the farm in 2006, right before the downturn. That same time, April the 7th, 2007, when I'd gone to work for this bank, we had a late spring freeze and lost our entire crop. And so, you can fill in the blanks. I was kind of like a boxer who was defeated and like, don't put me back out in the ring. And my wife and I literally sold everything we had and started over. I jokingly say we ended up in a 2-bedroom apartment in LA, Lower Arnold, Missouri. And we were just doing whatever we could to survive. I had a non-compete clause, and I couldn't sell real estate in Farmington. We'd lost our crop. The bank I went to work for was on this watch list. And so lo and behold, we had no income, and I was unemployed, and I was trying to sell real estate in St. Louis. And I did have was interesting because at the time, my publisher had an online real estate school, the publisher of my books, and they actually wanted my wife to do some time studies for them. And Carrie, my wife, would tell me, she's like, this is brutal, John. I mean, there were no graphics, there was no sound. You just basically read and clicked your mouse. And Carrie kept telling me all the time, you need to put your school online. She said, John, because she was watching what I was doing. I was creating some online courses for my friend Jenny Scheib at the REBI and helping her. And Carrie was like, honey, you need to do this. And I kept telling her, Carrie, there are too many real estate schools out there online. It's too late. I mean, game over, And my wife, bless her heart, always encouraged me and said, no, I don't think it's too late. You need to put your school online. Well, I just didn't have a lot of interest at the time. And so I was running my office here in Farmington. And one day I went to Harps grocery store. As you know, I love to tell stories. And true story, I'm in the produce section. If you walk in Harps, those doors you see, and you make a right, you end up right in the produce section. And for some reason, I always have conversations with past clients and people I know in the produce section. And I run into Henry, my friend Henry, at the produce section. And I had sent Henry to an online real estate school. This is not Henry, it's just a picture of a person. And so I said, Henry, how's your online real estate school going? And he said, oh, John, I had to drop out. It was horrible. And I started thinking about all of the people I had been sending to this online real estate school, and none of them could finish. They would just give up. And I asked myself that after I talked to Henry, because I really thought he would be a great agent for me. What's the problem? What's the deal? And of course, I had my wife telling me, you need to put your school online. And so I got in my truck. What's interesting is I literally had a Chevrolet Avalanche truck. That's not my truck there. I took this picture this last summer before I did a presentation in Texas for the Real Estate Educators Association. But I had an Avalanche truck, and I got in my truck that day, and I looked in the rear view mirror, and I told myself, John Mayfield, you're going to put your real estate school online. And so I did. And then, I'm like, okay, my school, I launched it in January of 2017. How do I get my school noticed out there? I mean, there's so many people and so many things to do. What's the best way to do my school? And of course, my mom always told me, not everybody likes the same type of ice cream. Some of us like chocolate and some like vanilla. And so I loved YouTube and I loved video. But I also am thinking, well, how am I going to do all of this with a podcast? So naturally, I wanted to do some live streaming because my wife said, here's what I don't like about this product. There's no pictures, there's no visuals, there's no audio. And so I thought, I've got to be different. I've got to come up with something different. And so, I had some effective things that I was doing online, but I thought, okay, I've got to come up with something different. And I started thinking about podcasting. Now, I'm telling you all of this story because podcasting is big. And there are so many things that I want to share with you. Now, I took this screenshot this morning so you could see. And it says, this is between December 1st and December 29th, 29 days. The brown box on the left, 79 downloads yesterday. The last 7 days, 211 downloads. In the last 30 days, 1,737 downloads. Now, sure, they could be some of the same people. However, you can see since I started my podcasting journey, 105,000 downloads. Now, I hit 100,000 downloads with just fairly recently. And so it's growing exponentially now quite a bit. But I'm here to tell you podcasting is big. And you might say, well, why is podcasting so big? The first reason, I think, is just that it's so much easier. And I see I had a question come in here. Says can't understand, lots of interference. And I apologize, Darlene. Is there other interference? Let me see here. Is that better, or is anyone else getting interference? My apologies. I had no idea. If I could maybe have somebody just type in the chat box or the Q&A, either one. Okay, clear there. Okay, thank you, Scott. It could be, Darlene, maybe your internet connection. Very clear here. Thank you, Mary and Scott. So I apologize, Darlene. I am recording it, so I should have a good, clear recording, and I can pass that along to you as well, Darlene. Hopefully that'll get a little bit better. And you might try logging out and back in. Could also help as well. Thank you all. So, the question is, why do I keep asking myself, why is podcasting so big? And I just think there's a lot of choices. Now, I listen to podcasts all the time. And yesterday I was listening to a podcast, and this lady was talking. I was hearing about podcasting that pharmacists are doing to help other pharmacists and people understand about medicines. It was mind-boggling, the number of podcasts people were sharing. So I think it's a big deal today, and I think that it's easier for people. One of the things I like about podcasting is when you do publish a podcast, it just pops up in somebody's phone. It pops up in my phone. There's a new podcast, so you can pick the podcast you want to listen to. And so I'll kind of want to walk you through, what is a podcast, some equipment, and talk to you about ways you can do a podcast. And more importantly, what I really think is so important here, and I want to come back out, and I apologize I don't have my buttons, because I love to use my my buttons when I talk to the group, but because then I can kind of make it more interactive, or I'm going in and out. So I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way on Zoom, okay? And that's okay. We just improvise with what we have. But first of all, my real estate school is doing very, very well. We're in 9 states now. One of the things that really troubles me as a real estate school owner is I don't want to just take your money and have you pass the real estate exam and then say, okay, you're on your own. I want to see you do really, really well. And so one of the things that I have discovered, and I want to share with you as we move through this presentation, is that podcasting can really position you to be the authority expert in your marketplace. And I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, as I've mentioned, and one of my favorite podcasts is a guy by the name of Dan Kennedy. These are older podcasts. If you've ever heard about ClickFunnels, or you've heard of the young boy's name called Russell Brunson, who's made millions of dollars off of internet marketing, Russell actually bought Dan Kennedy's library. And so he's repurposing this old content, and which is something that I will talk about as well. And so I'm listening to this old podcast of Dan Kennedy back in 2012, 10 years ago or so. And Dan's interviewing this gentleman, and they're talking about this concept called authority marketing. And Dan Kennedy said, that's one of the best ways to grow your business. Become the expert in your marketplace. And now, back then, they were talking about writing books. Today, Dan and others, Joe Polish, another guy I listened to, I think he goes by Polish, who was the guy who started a rug cleaning business in Arizona. And he did some creative marketing things. And now he's like a multi-millionaire doing online marketing. But Joe will say the same thing. You have to become an authority expert. So as we go through this podcast presentation today, I want you to think about, what's a podcast and how then can we use that to position ourselves to be the expert in the marketplace. So what is a podcast? Let's just talk about that first. And a podcast is really just doing an audio recording. Some of you who signed up for the webinar late and some of you who signed up early did not get this video message I sent out a couple of days ago. But literally, I sent an email out yesterday, I believe it was, and I was in my pajamas. And I did a podcast in my pajamas for the people who hadn't signed up to say, here's what I love about podcasting. You don't have to get fixed up for the TV camera. You can just do it right from your pajamas. So anyway, I'm actually doing a whole podcast on how to do a specific software product in my pajamas, because you can do podcasting whenever, which is so cool. You can also interview people, but for a global real estate school, I do a combination. Many of my podcasts are just me talking about how to pass the real estate exam. Many of the podcasts I listen to that I really enjoy are just people sharing their knowledge and expertise. But you can interview someone. And so there's many ways that you can do a podcast. Now, let's just talk about some things people say. I don't know what to talk about. I don't have a radio voice. Well, nobody really wants to hear a radio voice. I'm telling you what, I can show you a guy right now who literally has over, I think it's 1.5 million downloads a month, might be 2 million downloads a month. And my wife said, that voice and that many people download his podcast because he has a really squeaky voice. Well, you know what? You don't have to have a great voice. What do you talk about? And there's some exercises I could lead you through, but I want to get through all of the slides here. But there's many ways that I can explain to you on what to talk about. How will I get guests? I want to tell you what, that is so easy today. I went on Amazon. I was doing podcasts for Missouri Realtors. I went on Amazon and I just typed in top real estate books. I found this book called Resilient Women in Real Estate. Her name's Kim Hayden. I sent her an email. She wrote me back, said, I'd love to do the podcast. Well, we hit it off. She had some great information from Missouri Realtors. If you haven't listened to that podcast, if you're a real estate agent, you have to go download that podcast because Kim just gives you so many great ideas to grow your business. Well, then Kim asked me to be on her podcast. She has one of the largest podcast followings in Canada. Well, I'm featured this month. It's doing so well. She's putting me in her new magazine. It's a digital magazine she sends out. And now she's asked me to be a part of this summit where I'm going to do a virtual presentation. And she and I become the best of friends. She's the nicest lady. And I just reached out to her on Amazon because she had written a book. So I'm telling you what, I reach out to people all the time who want to be guests. Mary, I see Mary's on here from St. Louis. I was at an event in St. Louis downtown for, I was there for Missouri Realtors, and it was part of the Hawthorne Foundation. And there was a guy there from St. Louis who actually has a coffee company on the side where he roast coffee, and all of the proceeds from his coffee go to a charity that he supports. Well, I asked him, I said, I'd love to have you on my podcast because I'm getting ready to launch a new podcast now that my term with Missouri Realtors is over with on encouraging people who are 50 or older to kind of do stuff they wouldn't maybe normally think about doing, like starting a podcast or a YouTube channel. So I want to kind of interview ones. I kind of want it to be, and there's a few podcasts out there about, starting over after corporate life, or starting over after 60, or just interesting companies and entrepreneurs who did something later in life. That's kind of my real passion. And so it's no brainer to get guests. And then here's the one at the bottom that I totally missed. Okay. And I want you to write this down or think about this, because do I have to do this every day, week, or month? And the answer is no. There's a guy right now who has millions of downloads, and he only publishes his podcast every other month. Okay. Now, here's what I missed as podcasting, because some of you may be thinking, I don't know if I want to commit to doing a podcast for the rest of my life. Well, the big thing now with podcasting is you have seasons. So you might have season 1 that has 6 episodes or 8 episodes. It's about a specific thing. And then season 2, you can do something else, or if you want to take a break for 3 months, but it's really the concept of Netflix and TV and Amazon, like Yellowstone, where you have seasons. And so, don't feel like you're going to be drawn into something for the rest of your life. Maybe you want to just do something that's for a season. And so that's kind of cool. And I miss that part. And I wish I had known that. I've been attending podcasting conferences, and I'm just like, I've been into podcasting for a long, long time, but I took some time off. But so why podcasting? And I put video blogging because you can actually, which is what I'm doing now, is I'm doing interviews on YouTube. I use a program called ReStream, and I do interviews. And then from the interview, I take the audio off and I publish the audio for the podcast, and I keep the video and audio on YouTube for my YouTube channel. So I'm actually doing two items at once. But why do we want to do this? I mean, let's face it, people are on their phones all the time. YouTube's the second largest search engine on the internet. So you definitely want to be on there. The other thing that I think is so important, and by the way, I wanted to show you this here. This is my YouTube. I get paid now on YouTube every month. I get paid on YouTube every month. And this is my 3rd largest download that I have on YouTube. And it's a podcast. It's audio only. So a lot of people like to just use YouTube to listen to podcasts. So if you do video, you don't have to, but if you want to do video and combine it with your podcast, you can do that. But it's big. And I think that we need to remind ourselves that podcasting is very big. So here's 5 reasons that I want you to think about with podcasting. Number 1, you can get noticed, okay? People will find you, they're searching, and become the expert. We talked about that. It builds relationships. You can create a tribe. I don't think I'm supposed to use the word tribe, and I need to change that, but circles, maybe we could. Self-growth and knowledge, and then people are different. But you remember that authority expert. That's what I want you to think about, because it really can do that. And I tell you that because I used to remind my sales agents all the time, whoever has the most signs up around town wins the game. It's called the law of fundamental attribution error. People will make decisions off of very little information. Perception is reality. And so what I want you to think about with this authority, being an authority expert, is that in real estate, for example, people want to know what interest rates are. They want to know about loans. They want to know about average sales price and what's going on in the marketplace. There's so much information that we can talk about as real estate professionals that you can really, in the consumer's mind, create that vision and that perception that you are the expert. You know, there was I was very blessed to go to France to speak, and many of you have heard that story. And then I went to from there, they invited me to go to another place. And I was posting all of that on Facebook and at the time and Twitter and LinkedIn. And I have to tell you what, that those posts and me speaking in those foreign countries took my speaking business to a whole different level and really changed the perception of me as a speaker in so many ways. I didn't really change that much as a speaker. I mean, hopefully I got better, but the credibility and the international and the global part then took me to Dubai, and then took me here, and it took me to Egypt, and took me to India and Taiwan. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying when we talk about the law of fundamental attribution error, I think that's what a lot of my new agents are missing, is that they're trying to compete against agents who've been around a little bit longer, and they're missing out on this opportunity to talk about some great stuff that they learn in real estate school, or that you know from being a real estate professional or whatever your profession is, and talking about that and talking to other experts about that, all of a sudden take you to a different level, and it makes you that authority expert. So we have some great stuff to talk about. People are on their phones and they're listening to podcasts, and I think you should at least consider starting a podcast because it's so inexpensive. So there's several other questions, you know, or things that I want you to think about. You need a microphone. You need the right software, and I'm going to go through all these. You need a podcasting service. You need to have a graphic or artwork. You need to know how to edit your podcast, and you need a topic or some topics to talk about, right? And you need to dedicate some time. So let's go through all of these, and let's start with a microphone. That's really the cool thing. Now I'm using, if you noticed, I have this actual microphone that I'm using right here. This is a Shure MB7 something, I think, SM7B. It's the same microphone that Michael Jackson sang Thriller on, believe it or not. It's a $350 microphone, and then you do need a little adapter that plugs into your computer, but hopefully my sound is pretty good with that. So, however, you know what? If you have some Apple AirPods or even the Apple microphone, the old microphone that came with your phone for free, it works fine. This is a little snowball microphone. Nothing wrong with it. If you're going to go this route, I would encourage you to maybe go with a USB microphone versus one that just plugs into a jack. But this is a Rode PodMic. It's a $99 microphone. It's what my daughter uses. She has a YouTube channel with, she's like, flew past my number of, I thought I was doing great. My daughter like shot past me with, but this is what she uses on YouTube and plugs it into her computer. It's got a great sound. It's 99 bucks. This is a little Yeti microphone you can buy on Amazon. They're like 79 to 150 bucks. There's different types of these, and you don't have to have an arm like that. You can just have it right here. That's the microphone that I used for a long, long time. This is a USB microphone, and I like Rode. I think they make a great product. You do want to be careful if you buy Rode not to go through Amazon, because those are not certified resellers. You want to go through someone like Sweetwater. And in fact, if you go to Sweetwater, just ask for Nick Huskins. Nick Huskins. Nick's a great guy. And that's my sales rep. And I don't make any extra money, but just tell Nick John Mayfield recommended him, but he can help you out. But there's lots of microphones. This I really love, and it has a great sound. It's called the Rode Wireless Go 2. And I probably would have worn it today. I can walk around when I'm doing a microphone with this, and I can do it on my phone from anywhere. And there are two of these. And so I can actually do an interview. So many of the interviews I've done for Missouri Realtors, when I did Brianna's interview in Washington, D.C., I gave her one of the Rode, and this just clips on your shirt. And that's what I used when I did the pajama video. I just had it clipped on my inside of my pocket, and the sound was perfect. So I love, and this is great. It works with your phone or a camera, and it works with video. So I love the Rode Wireless Go 2, does a great job. And then this is kind of interesting. I saw this at the podcasting conference I was at. It's from a company called Yellow Tech. They're out of Germany. And actually, I love their products so well. I bought my arm for my microphone from them. And I also bought that connects to that, a tablet that holds my tablet. But this is an amazing microphone, but it's so handy. It slips into in the case, it slips into my briefcase. But I want to tell you a quick story. I'm at a YouTube creators conference in Los Angeles. There was not hardly any place to sit because the conference was so big and there were so many people there for lunch that the lady said, "Oh, I have something by the bar." So I set up at the bar. It was at lunch, and I was just going to get a quick sandwich. And the guy next to me is a real estate agent from Colorado and a big YouTuber doing some cool things on YouTube. And we started talking. And he was telling me things he was doing. And I said, "Could I do a quick podcast with you?" And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Absolutely." And so I did a quick podcast with him. It records inside the microphone. So all I had to do was pull this out of my bag, turn it on. It cuts out all of the background noise around you so that you don't hear. And we were in a very, very loud, noisy place. But I got about a 5-minute interview from him telling real estate agents what to do to be successful on YouTube. And there's a podcast. So Denise was asking me what was number 4 and 5. And Denise, I will I'll be sure and come back to that at the end. Okay. So I apologize, but we're actually going to go through all of these too as we go through. I have, as of this, I have so this is our second one, software. So I'll try to remember, Denise, on when we get to 4 and 5. So those are some microphones. What I want you to know is if you're going to use any kind of microphone, just test it out. But if there's some great USB microphones for $40, $50, and if you have the headphone jack that goes with your Apple or Android phone, it'll work great. So, with software, there are some software programs out there. This is a free program called Audacity. And by the way, I'll make this presentation available for everyone afterwards as well. Audacity, a lot of people use it. I've used it because you're going to make mistakes and you maybe need to edit something out. There's GarageBand, which is included if you have a Mac. And it's a little complicated for me, I'll be honest with you. I tend to use this program here called Camtasia. Very easy to use. And what I like about it is if I'm doing a YouTube video, I can just separate the video and audio track, delete the video, and then export the audio as a podcast. There's an app you can get from this company called Anchor on your phone, and they'll publish and send it out to every place. So lots of software. And this is one, some of you may have gotten the video if you watched it. Down below my invite, I actually use Ferret, and I have a step-by-step guide on how you can use Ferret for a tablet if you're a big tablet person. And I actually use this software a lot to do my podcast. Now, today, I'm going to be honest with you. I do have a person who helps me because my school's growing, and I have an audio video person. I needed that help. And so my audio guy, Dan, we use a higher end program now, but we're doing a lot of different audio for our courses that we're putting up and so forth. So, but software sometimes is, the Ferret for a tablet, it's like $9, and Camtasia is not very expensive. Once you have your software that you record the podcast and do a little bit of editing, we're going to talk about that in a minute, then you want to get a service. Like, these are some services that you can use. And from there, it will send it out to all of those different areas. I don't know why Podbean was not on there. So another one that I use is called Podbean, B-E-A-N. And that's my favorite, and it's very easy to use. So I don't know why that slide got off of there, but Podbean. So any of these programs that I just went through, is that if I use this service, and a lot of people use this service right here, and I will tell you, at the podcasting conference I was at this last summer in Dallas, they had cards up on their table of all the different podcasters out there, programs. I thought I took a picture, and I've been looking for it, but I mean, people podcasting about birds and camping and, how to knit and whatever your passion is. I'm telling you what, there's a podcast for it. But you would upload it to this service, and then from there, any of those services or Podbean, they push it out to the platforms where people can listen to it. Now, they can still listen to it through Podbean or Anchor or Spreaker or any of those, but these are the ones where you pick up most of your listeners. So like Spotify, my Podbean sends it to iTunes and Spotify. We probably get more traffic through Spotify, and I get a lot of traffic through iHeartRadio, and I get a lot of traffic through Amazon, Google as well. So, I mean, here are some of the platforms. This is from my dashboard, but you can see we're going to Apple, Google, Podbean. There's the company I use where I host my podcast. But it sends it, Podbean then sends it to Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, TuneIn, Alexa. It goes right in. If people can say, I want to listen to John Mayfield, whatever our podcast is. And there's many more down below there. So it's going out all over the place. So, which is kind of neat. So yeah, hopefully you're with me. We need a platform to host it. Now, to give you an idea, Podbean cost me $14.95 per month. Okay, that's all it cost me. I have a second Podbean account that is $14.95 that I do not publish to any networks. And you might say, why are you not publishing it to iTunes? Because I have a membership site for brokers that I'm launching, and that is a special bonus that my audience, my members receive, are the podcasts that I do with top brokers around the country. And so I just publish it there, and I get all of the artwork and the embed code, and I have that embedded on my membership site, so nobody else can see that. So there's some cool things you can do, but what I wanted you to know is $15. And you probably hear my dog barking in the background. And what would a webinar be without Lucy barking at the FedEx or the UPS person? So artwork, Canva, very easy to use. You can use Canva. There are lots of ways to do that. I use Fiverr for a lot of stuff, and there's some people that do great content work, and they will do thumbnails for you. This is kind of a cool software program called remove.bg. It's free, but you can upload your graphic and it takes the background out. So then I can now put that onto my podcast. But, you can see my thumbnail, or what we call thumbnail picture. I have the same one for Global Real Estate School now. And I have the same one for Easy Sales Meetings. Now, the new podcast that I'm getting ready to start, that I'll be, my goal is to do it every week. And it's for the people, like I said, 50, you don't have to be 60, because there's a lot of people in their 50s that think, oh gosh, I'm too late to the party. And I'm trying to come up with a good name for that. So if you have one, let me know. But I just thought of that, too late for the party, but that's not what I want to use. But that specific podcast, I will probably change the graphic for each guest that I have, or each topic that I'm talking about. So you need some artwork. And here's something I wanted to show you. It's called Podpage. This is what I'm going to use for my new podcast I'll be launching this next month. And I'll still use Podbean, but Podpage will be my website for my podcast, and it will pull all of my shows from Podbean. It will pull any reviews. It will send it out to all of it makes the coolest website. And their gimmick is that you can create a website in 5 minutes. And I want to tell you what, you can. And I think you can even create additional pages where, if you wanted to showcase other products and things you have, but really cool program, and would check that out. Now, as far as editing, Ferrite that I talked about, or Ferrite, I think's the correct pronunciation of that. You can edit right on that. And again, Fiverr, you can hire people to help you out with that. So any of those software programs I showed you earlier, they will edit, but you're going to need to edit at some point. And then you might want to have an opening and a closing, and you can get some audio from Audio Jungle. And, there's, I have an opening and I have a closing. And so, there's different ways you can do that. Some people just go right into the podcast. Some people will take a little snippet of one of their guests and put at the front end, and then come in and introduce that specific podcast. So however you want to do that. So topics was another question that I had put up there. And where do you start on topics, and how do you come up with some good topics? Well, I want to tell you, I think you ought to find your passion. I mentioned to you, I have this passion. I was speaking on podcasting in Miami, Florida, and I talked about how I thought I was too old to start my school, and thought I was too old to do this and that. And then, I said, no, I'm not too old. I don't want to, I'm 62, going to be 63. I don't want to give up. I was at a Christmas function the other day, and I was meeting all these people that I went to school with, and they're all like, I'm retired. And they looked miserable to me. I thought, I don't want to retire. I'm just now getting my second wind. And I had people come up to me at that conference, and they said, I really needed to hear you tell me I'm not too old, or to encourage me to keep going. And I was at St. Louis Realtors doing a presentation, and I kind of said the same thing, and people came up to me and said the same thing. So I really have that passion. Now, Marcia asked a question, and hey, Marcia, and she's a great global realtor up in the Chicago area. How long should the podcast be? And that's a great question. I used to think they had to be 30 and 40 minutes, but I got to tell you what, some of my favorite podcasts I listen to, Marcia, are that 15-minute to 19-minute mark. Amy Porterfield does a lot of podcasts that are just if she's just talking about a topic on her own, normally they're around 15, 20 minutes, maybe not even that long. If she's interviewing someone, and that's the same way with me, I find my interviews will go 20 to 30 minutes because you'll just kind of get into some questions you have, but then you'll start, the conversation just leads to other questions. So, but yeah, I mean, I did one the other day, Marcia, and it was probably only 4 or 5 minutes long. So some of mine are not that long. And if it's just, for example, you want to get on and say, hey, I just found some new information about EB5, or, I want to tell you about this really cool website where you can find out more about global and different information, and then share that. Maybe it's just that Main Street just published a new global something, or we're having or doing a recap, Marcia, of because you all do a lot of YouTube stuff with interviews and but I mean, a lot of the stuff that I've seen you do on Instagram or Reels, those would be really great podcasts. And by the way, that's the other cool thing, and my team and I are exploring, is how we can take snippets of our podcast and use those in Reels to drive people back to our website or to do business with us. So, but find your passion. I show this with YouTube. I'm telling you what, when I was at the podcasting conference, I thought I was going to be the oldest person there. And I have to tell you, there were people much older than me. And there was one man with a big cowboy hat who was 80 years old. And we were in line, and I said, I just have to ask you, what's your podcast about? And he goes, I talk about trail riding and the best horseback trails to ride in the United States. And he had a card and a website, and I don't know what all, but it was really cool to see the people there. But just one of the things I hear a lot of these podcasts or online marketers talk about is drilling down and being specific and being unique. And I think that can really help you out. And so, finding content, I just want to share with you some ideas. Frequently asked questions. I do that a lot on my global real estate school, because people ask, is now a good time to buy a home, or is now a good time to wait, or should I get an FHA or a VA loan? Or, Mary's on here, my good friend Mary from St. Louis, and she's just an amazing person. You need to read her book, but Mary does such a great job with helping people manage their time and be more productive. And so there's tons of, frequently asked questions. You can look at industry news or current events. I recently did a podcast and a video for should you wait and get a loan or take the higher interest rate? And of course, you could have the seller buy down. A lot of people don't even know what a buy down is. But I did a comparison and actually figured it out, and you would actually lose money if you didn't go on and buy a home now, if your property went up 10% in value. So you can take current events and do some interesting things, social media trends, Google, you could go into Google and do a search and type in whatever your topic is, and Google will tell you what the top keywords are. So, if you were in Marco Island and you wanted to find out, well, what are people searching for in Marco Island? Well, there you have it. There's some of your podcast content, and you can do that in St. Louis, Chicago, wherever. So lots of cool ways that you can get content. And Google even has a free keyword planner where you can see what people are searching for. And so lots of really cool. And then we're in this AI growth. So this vidIQ that I pay for, and I'm not trying to get you to go out and buy a bunch of apps, but they actually use artificial intelligence as well as this Jasper.ai. And they actually will search the internet for what people are searching for, tell you what's popular, and actually give you headlines that will resonate with the audience. So I use both of these. but I'm telling you what, vidIQ is kind of crazy. I can type in a few keywords and it does the whole description for me and everything, but it saves us a lot of time. You can repurpose other older content you've done, or maybe things you've done on social media, and you can ask others for questions. The podcast I listened to last night that I thought was absolutely amazing on this podcasting I listened to called School of Podcasting. And it was basically, he had people call in to say, what's your favorite podcast? And it was so cool to hear these people talk about all of these podcasts they love to listen to. And I went out and looked some of them up, and they looked fascinating, but I have such a long list of podcasts now I love to listen to. But that's the cool thing. You can go and listen to these when you're riding or walking, but you could do a show where you just ask others for questions. So I think that podcasting is really cool. A couple of other quick tools I want to tell you about. There's a Rode Procaster Pro 2, which is what I'm using right now. And this is really cool because I can bring guests in and control their volume. You'll see the little pads on the right. If I wanted to have sound effects, which I do not do that often, I can do that as well. I could have someone laugh, or, it's like a full-blown radio control panel. But I bought that because I do go out and take my equipment with me and want to be able to do podcasts. There's lots of accessories and things you can buy, if you have peas popping, and hopefully I'm not doing that. And then you can also, a couple of other ideas is you can use Linktree. Many of you are familiar with that, where on Instagram, they can click on Linktree and you can see the fourth bullet down is download our podcast here. So when we're doing things on Instagram, we can say link in the bio, and then we can direct them if we have a recent podcast, and we can move those around. And so there's some cool things you can do there. And then my daughter, I told her, she helps me with a lot of my social media, but there's a program called Wave. And so when we do a podcast, you can put that, there's different programs out there. Mary, you're probably familiar with Shep Hyken. Shep's like knocking it out of the park on Facebook and Instagram with how he's repurposing his posts there. But I'm telling you what, it's just a really cool way to go out and to grow your business and have people listen to you and meet people from all over. I want you to know, and I'm not saying this to brag, now I'm in real estate, but people are searching podcasts. But I've had people from LA call me and tell me they listen to me in the car every day when they go to work. I have a lady, I have her on video, actually. I think Alex is getting ready to share it, but I ran into her at the St. Louis Realtors Conference. She passed the test, and she said, oh my gosh, John Mayfield. She said, I listened to you every day when I went out for my run. I put you on. That's how I studied. That's how I passed the test. And I hear that all the time, but I'm just making lots of friends and people, but it's podcasting can be huge. You need a game plan, and, you need a checklist, and you need a strategy, but if you got to do some stuff that other people aren't doing, and be different is my goal. And so the last one I said is you have to be consistent. And that's what I'm trying to do better. I feel like I probably got a C- this last year because I was president. I'm not using that as an excuse. I was president of Missouri Realtors, but oh gosh, it was a lot of commitment. I still have one more year, but I still tried to be consistent. And I remember when I was at the National Speakers Association, I remember they were interviewing 3 big Instagram stars. This has been a couple of years ago. And I remember the lady saying, if there's one piece of advice you could give everybody in the audience, what would it be? And I mean, all 3 of them, without missing a beat, said, oh, you got to do it every day. You have to be consistent. And so, I heard that, and here I am at this podcast movement, which I'm going to go to again. It's going to be in Denver this next year. It was probably one of the funnest conferences I've gone to. And like iHeart and Amazon, they all had these huge parties with amazing food, and it was just a lot of fun. And they had sessions going. I learned a lot from my real estate career, and that's where I saw these people and met all of these people. And the one thing they said at most of these sessions was, you have to be networking with other people who have podcasts and get on theirs. But you can see part of the floor here where you could find out anything you want on podcasting. But I wanted to show you this picture here, this lady, because what was interesting, and we're talking about consistency, she started out podcasting on the side in her bedroom closet because she wanted to get good quality audio. Now, she and a friend run a crime podcasting podcast. They talk about unsolved crimes. That's pretty big today. You can have a podcast on anything. And in fact, I was trying to think, what do I want to do my next podcast on? And I started thinking about unsolved crimes in my area or Missouri. And I found some really cool stories that I had no idea existed, but it's not my passion. But I wanted you to know that her and her partner now are on a major radio network making, I don't know how much money. They have, I think she said, 20 or 30 full-time employees that work for them and do all their work. And they started out, her partner wasn't there. That was the lady interviewing her, the lady on the right. She started out doing her podcast in her closet, her bedroom. But you know what? She was consistent and she stayed with it. And here she is. So, is it too late to podcast or get to the game? I don't think it is. I mean, I kept telling my wife, honey, it's too late for me to start a real estate school. I have a school now in 7 states. I want you to know there was a time in my life when, I have a business today with 3 full-time employees, and I'm making more money today than I ever made as a real estate broker with an online real estate school. But at one time, I thought I was too late to the party. And, here I am running this school in Hawaii, and we just got approved in Utah. And I have to remind myself and remind you, it's never too late. I thought it was. My wife told me it wasn't, but it's not too late. And I don't want you to know that. Don't worry about all of that stuff there, because I'm launching this for myself, and whether anybody else joins me or not, okay? But I'm going to do a 5-week session, and I'm going to post all of this online, because I've had a lot of people ask me about putting together a podcasting course. So I'm actually putting together a course for an intro and an advanced course. And so here's, it's 5 weeks with me on Zoom, and I'm going to actually walk you through me setting up my brand new podcast through Podpage. It's going to start on January 4th. I'm going to record all these. So if you can't be there, don't worry, it's no big deal. There will be step-by-step videos you can watch over and over as long as you want. I'm putting together how-to guides, some templates and shortcuts. I mean, scripts that if you have a guest that you can send to them and show them how they can promote it. We're going to take a look. Dan, my son-in-law, who helps me with all of my editing, is going to do some stuff for me on microphones so you can hear different sounds and software and how to edit. We're going to do all of that. And then we're going to set up a private Facebook group where we can all talk and communicate. Not that you have to use that, but I use more of the groups in Facebook today than I do Facebook itself. But, and then I've got this guide where I've just got all of these different things you could podcast about, especially as a real estate agent. And then if you need a 30-minute consultation, I'm going to help you assist with that. And because, and there's just a group of people on here, I'm going to sell these courses for $497 because I know what the competition is selling them for, and it's a lot more than that. So I'm going to give you access to both of those courses that I'm creating, and you'll have lifetime access if you're interested in this. And, if you're not, it's no big deal. You can always reach out to me. But I think if you're serious and you want to put together a podcast, I'd love for you to be a part of this inaugural course that I'm going to create. We're going to do this online via Zoom. And like I said, you'll get both courses. You'll have full-time access to all of this and into the future. So you would just go to podcastingblueprintforsuccess.com. I just set the card up. So it's open now, but I'm going to close it on January 2nd, or you can use your phone, and I'll come back to this in just a second. But I am going to close that. I only want a limited number of people in there. So on Monday at midnight, it's going to close. And if we've got 2 people in there, or 5 people, or 20 people, we'll do that. But I want you to think about what I really want more than anything is I want people to be able to grow their business. And I really think that through podcasting, you can begin to pick up more listings and more clients. And yeah, there's a bunch of stuff there, but more than anything, I want to help you make money and have a great 2023. That's my goal. I want to help you. I want to see you close more deals and get more contracts and really be able to reach your goals and do some cool things. But, and I think you can do it. I know you can do it. So don't think that it's game over. Or it's never too late. I was telling someone the other day, and I used to tell my agents that all the time when we were talking about goal setting. And I used to remind them, if you do the same thing over and over and over again, but expect different results, you'll go crazy. So think big, dream big, believe big, and the result will be big. So again, if you have an interest, there's the QR code, or you can go to that. It'll be open through Monday at midnight. But I'd love to have you on here. We're going to start next week. I actually have 6 weeks built in. And if you can't be there, all of the sessions will be recorded. You can watch. And then my son-in-law and I are actually creating a lot of additional content that will be step-by-step on how you edit and upload and all of that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I just know that, to me, this is the ground floor. I mean, I shouldn't have stopped back in 2012, but you know what? I can't go back and change that. I just have to pick up and keep going forward. So podcastingblueprintforsuccess.com, or you can email me. But again, that's going to close Monday, and actually that'll be pulled off, and I won't bring this back out until after we do this, because I want each week I'm going to have you all survey and tell me what else can we add to it, or what did we miss. And I want to fine tune this to make it the best course it can be. And then you'll get access to both of those courses, because there will be an intro, a beginner's level, and an advanced level. So I would be more than happy to answer any questions, and I'll send everybody this PowerPoint, so you've got that. And I got a couple other videos I put together that I can send to you as well. There we go. So let's see. Thank you, Marcia. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mary. And Dennis, yeah, I'm going to send that back out. Yes, I will send a link. So you'll get an email from me. And thank you, Scott. Oh, thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. Well, I could create this course on my own, but I thought it might be fun to have people involved and encourage you. So that way we can kind of work together. But I mean, Mary, and there's so many things I can see with you, and like Marcia with the global side there. I just think there's, and that one thing I forgot to show you all at the podcasting conference I was at in Dallas, there was one session about global. And I went to this, and I meant to put that in there because this is where podcasting's going. There's a company, it cost, I think it was $2,000. They send you a sheet of paper and you read for 2 hours or 3 hours. You read all this information. And so I would read all of this information. They then take my podcast, just exactly like the audio I took today. They would strip the audio off, run it through their computer. They call it some kind of filter. And literally on the other side, it would come out in whatever language I choose. So Spanish might be one of the choices. And so now I can have my podcast in Mexico with my voice and my voice inflection being spoken in Spanish. It was absolutely mind-boggling. And the guy there said, this is going to make more billionaires. And he used the word "be" because he said it's opening up a whole new world. I actually talked to the guy he was a famous disc jockey in Los Angeles. He's working for this company, and he showed it to me because we want to use that for our real estate school. And we plan to do that, but I've got a few things I've been trying to finish up here. But anyway, I was thinking of you, Marcia, because the whole global side's going to just change with that. And it was the most mind-boggling presentation I've ever been in. So, well, listen, thank you so much. I appreciate everyone. Have a wonderful and a happy new year. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'll be sending some follow-up emails, but I would love to have you to be a part of it. So thank you again. Talk to you later. Hey, Arthur. Good to see you too. My friend Arthur from Ukraine's on, so. Bye.